Now, there is no doubt about it that ever since the assassination of Charlie Kirk that took place on September 10th, we have seen tons of those in the general public coming together to lend out their support to Kirk's family, his friends, his loved ones, even his wife, Erica Kirk. Unfortunately, though, you do have a lot of those in the media, those very celebrities out there, some of which have been saying downright awful things about Charlie Kirk, offensive things about the man, either lying about him, mocking him, attacking him, and just trying to really paint this narrative about the guy. Now, fortunately, you do have some celebrities, some actors out there, some actresses, really trying to stand up for this guy, and one of those is indeed Mel Gibson, an actor who really likes to tell it like it is, and he is a true American patriot. We all know that, and he knows that very well. What's interesting about all of this, though, has a lot more to do with Mel Gibson's take on the whole situation in regards to Jimmy Kimmel returning to ABC / the Walt Disney Company. Now, we know one thing about Jimmy Kimmel right now is that we all know that he's trying to defend himself with every chance that he gets, right? We know that Jimmy Kimmel is getting very defensive by the critics that are pointing out all of the things that he said days ago, over 4 days ago at this point. He had a very brief cancellation / suspension is what it really was, honestly. And when you're looking at everything in between here, even after his opening monologue, after his returning episode just like 2 nights ago, he's getting very defensive over the fact that, there are a lot of critics pointing out valid criticism as to why he was shedding tears only on that episode, but not on the episode when he was actually bringing up Charlie Kirk. It really is very telling. So what's interesting here, though, has a lot more to do with Gibson, a lot more to do with a lot of other actors out there standing up for Kirk, and really just calling out the hypocrisy coming from Disney. Now, with the assassination of Charlie Kirk causing so many celebrities to either support him or to unfortunately say downright offensive things about him, one major development going on now involves actor Mel Gibson, who recently called out Jimmy Kimmel after he made his return to ABC after his brief cancellation by making those Charlie Kirk-related comments. Now, Gibson delivered the following. I think you all know this as much as I do, but I'm an American patriot. I love my country. I love freedom of speech. After witnessing what Kimmel said, though, however, that's not about the murderer of Charlie Kirk, and how he really wanted to tie that conversation to MAGA was disgraceful. Just a terrible thing to say on the air, and for Disney and ABC to bring that man back on air, I think it shows incompetence by Bob Iger. And I'm not really all that surprised over how biased Disney really is. This is a corporation, mind you, that canceled Roseanne Barr, Gina Carano, and even urged Tim Allen to not make any comments about his political status when he was promoting Toy Story 4. Disney, I must also add, fired employees that commented on their political status as well on social media. And we are talking about regular, everyday working employees that were not given a chance to come back at all. And then you have Jimmy Kimmel, who says those things, those terrible things on television about Charlie Kirk and about MAGA, a show that is pre-taped no less, a segment that ABC could have easily cut out. They decided to bring him back in the long run. They knew what they were doing in the end. And look, I don't care if you enjoy Jimmy Kimmel or not, because that's not my business. I'm not here to say you should support or not support somebody. All I'm saying is that from my point of view, what Disney did was hypocritical, and that Mr. Kimmel didn't deliver a true apology to the public and to Kirk's family and friends. Where did we hear, "I'm sorry"? And the narrative. The BS narrative that Trump kicked Kimmel off the air. I don't even want to hear it, because if that were the case, then why is he back on the air now? That was a Disney decision after all. Now guys, let me just say one thing about that. That is a very interesting point that he does make, is the fact that, there was a narrative going on that it was Trump and Trump supporters that actually got, him kicked off the air by force, by the Trump presidency specifically, right? Before the uproar from Jimmy Kimmel, before the backlash. And that wasn't the case. The reason why he got kicked off, temporarily in this case, was the fact that people actually spoke. They actually made their voices clear that what he said was wrong. And it wasn't just Trump supporters, it wasn't just MAGA, it was people on the left, it was people at the center, it was even people that were apolitical, pointing out all the nonsense that Jimmy Kimmel was doing. That's what got him temporarily suspended and temporarily canceled, I should say, whatever have you. However, he goes on to continue, I think, yes, as a patriot, I stand up for freedom of speech, but that doesn't mean you have freedom of consequences. You can openly call Trump supporters or Republicans as racist and many others words for so long after people catch on. And I have so many friends who are Democrats that are just done with Kimmel after what he said. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with Nexstar and Sinclair when all is said and done, but we will have to see what goes on with them. The fact that they still have him off the air tells me that they saw the valid response coming from many Americans that they found that Jimmy Kimmel said was offensive. And it's not just Republicans or the MAGA crowd, it's also coming from liberals and those on the left that were very unhappy with Jimmy's comments. And that to me is very revealing. If Kimmel is back, then hire back the many employees that were fired for not just sharing their political status, but their political opinion and what side that they were on. Where is the balance, is all I'm asking. And I'm just trying to point out the obvious here. So that is another interesting point. We do know that a lot of Disney employees over the years have been fired, have been canceled, have been, laid off from their jobs, whether it was, theme parks, the film industry, or whatever it may have been. But it wasn't just regular employees. I mean, we saw this with Gina Carano and that whole drama. She won that legal case, by the way, just recently. In case you did not know about this, she did indeed win that legal case, alright? That lawsuit against Disney. And that, once again, just goes to show you that Disney knew what they did was guilty. They were guilty in that case, because they really went out of line. Now, we know one thing about Disney as a whole is that they are hypocritical in nature as a corporation. We've seen this time and time again. They have silenced so many people out there. If they haven't fired them or canceled them, they have silenced people within their own corporation over their political views. That's a fact. We have seen this so many times. And they've lied to the American people. They've lied to the general public. Whatever happened to toning down the whole DEI narrative and then just bringing it back silently but slowly? They did that. Bob Iger did that specifically. And look, this is why I said days ago that it would not surprise me at all. In fact, I expected them to bring back Jimmy Kimmel. And a lot of people doubted that, but I just saw through Disney's nonsense. I know Disney's going to always Disney, and that's just how they're going to be. But overall, I would love to hear what everyone has to say about Bob Iger and about Mel Gibson, really just calling out all the hypocritical nonsense coming from Bob Iger. Now look, we know that there are a lot of people as well, that do actually enjoy Jimmy Kimmel and find him talented. And look, I'm not going to exclude anybody's comments or views on that. You can support who you want to support, that's fine. But I'm just here to say that I'm no fan of Jimmy Kimmel, and I feel that what he said, that infamous Charlie Kirk related comment, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think it was a really good thing to say at all. In fact, it was a very offensive thing to say on television. It was even more offensive, and to Mel Gibson's point, the fact that ABC could have easily deleted that segment because everything is pre-taped. I don't know if you guys ever went to a late night show, but you do get there around 3:30, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or Pacific Time, whatever, wherever you are, and then they air it hours later at nighttime, alright? So that's how it just works, generally. So they could have easily, got rid of that actual segment if they wanted to. This was ABC's doing as well. But overall, I would love to hear what everyone has to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.